Basic difference between science and religion. Science is the investigation, the use of intelligence and information to investigate things, to determine what is bullshit and what is not bullshit. That is a pretty fundamental, plain English definition of what science fundamentally is all about. Intelligence and information applied to investigate whether something is bullshit or not bullshit, whether something is true. In other words, it's a which more typically expressed, that science is an attempt to separate the truth from non-truth. The word bullshit just is a slightly more a more emotive expression of the concept of non-truth. Because they say non-truth, you sound kind of robotic. Yes, okay, this is true, that is not true. I operate by the binary system to distinguish and filter truth from non-truth. Beep, beep, beep. That's what non-truth. It's non-judgmental. This is rational, scientific, non-judgmental verbiage. Non-truth. We do not express opinions. We merely say some is truth and some is non-truth. Can all be quantified. Whereas if you speak instead of, you refer to bullshit, then you leave the realm of being a robot and enter the realm of being a thinking, feeling human being, flesh and blood and brain. So you have emotions. Ooh, what a sin that is for robots, isn't it? How terrible for a robot to have an emotions. That's a virus, an infection we must be able to rid from our robotic system, right? But if a human being has emotions, a human being has feelings and perceptions and judgments and opinions. And so to a living flesh and blood, heart beating, breathing human being, the concept of non-truth may be expressed slightly more colorfully as bullshit. Gets the point across. It gets the point across, whereas being neutral and robotic and impartial and non-judgmental doesn't always manage to get the point across. It merely spits out information like a whatever it is, computer printout, spitting out information but not having any particular commitment or opinion one way or the other. But here's your information. Human beings will distinguish and use words that are more colorful, such as bullshit. And so, as a human being, and not a robot, I will say that one possible version of a definition of science is that it is a method of trying to distinguish bullshit from truth. That's my definition presented to you today of science and its function and purpose. Contrast that to the function and purpose and methodology of religion. Is it the purpose of religion to sort truth from non-truth, to sort truth from bullshit? Is that the goal that religion universally applies to itself? Not at all. Not at all. That doesn't mean that nobody who is involved in religion, participates in religion, even is a religious leader, is interested in the truth or is capable of arriving at the truth. Doesn't mean that. But it also doesn't mean that all members of, or even the majority of people who participate in religion, practice it, and perform leadership functions in religion, are in fact committed to the truth and against bullshit. That, you must recognize, is not the case. There is plenty of bullshit that is not only part of religion, but very often required. Religion not only often has elements of bullshit mixed in with it, but it often requires the belief in bullshit and tells members that if you do not believe in the bullshit, then you're a bad person and you must be punished for not believing in the bullshit. Now that has got to be a very opposite approach from the approach of science. And the approach of science rewards skepticism, rewards the ability to filter bullshit and discard bullshit, must be rewarded in science. Whereas that ability in religion is very often punished. The mere attempt to sort out bullshit from truth within the religious realm is often seen as a crime in itself, for which people can be punished even for just suggesting that an attempt might be made to apply intelligence and reason to sort out bullshit from truth. Even just the suggestion that this might be something to consider can be something for which many people have been punished and killed for. So there is a basic distinction, ladies and gentlemen, between the concept of science and religion. And if you apply these things, if you start to notice that what is passed off as science has more of the elements of this definition of religion, then you need to start questioning whether what you're looking at really is, in fact, science, or whether it is rather some form of a religion calling itself a science, dressing itself up as a science, putting on a white lab coat. Now, how much difference is there between a white lab coat? Think about this. How much real difference is there between a white lab coat and some of the white robes that are worn by religious leaders and religious people in the leadership function of religion, wearing their white robes? Now, sometimes they wear red robes. Sometimes they wear black robes. But very often, they wear white robes. And how really fundamentally different are those white robes worn by religious leaders from the white lab coats worn by people portraying themselves as scientists? How often have you seen commercials on television, or even supposedly informative television programs, in which you've got certain people, very often actors, standing in front of a camera wearing a white lab coat, a white cloth lab coat, as if that is supposed to give them the air of authority that what they are saying must be valid because they're a doctor, or they play one on TV, they look like a doctor, they're wearing the costume of a doctor, So what they say must have more validity and be taken more seriously than somebody else who's not wearing the white lab coat. How religious is that? how very equivalent to the religious attitude is that attitude that's towards that form of science presentation of itself. And on the other hand, well, just before we end this topic, in the reverse situation, if people in the realm of religion, if somebody in the people in the realm of religion and leadership, religious leadership, behave and act and are motivated and in manner in ways that resemble the definition more of religion. In the definition of science. If people, religious leaders, people involved in religion, operate in a manner, function in a manner that more fits the definition of science, of using intelligence and information to sort out truth from non-truth, to sort out reason from bullshit, then you start to question whether we should really think of them as a religious person, and possibly start thinking of them more as in terms of as a scientist. That's less frequent. That's less common situation for you to find yourself in, because more often, if somebody truly is a scientist with a scientific method, first of all, they'd be more likely to necessarily want to distance themselves from the whole religious experience, or from the whole religious function, the religious process, the whole process of religion, and the whole, I'm just going to stick with the word process because I'm not going to waste time trying to think of a better word, but within the whole process of religion, most people who have a reasoning and skeptical and questioning attitude are going to find themselves, first of all, sort of not black. What's that other word? Not blacklist. It's that ancient Greek word where the black. Well, yeah, ostracized. Somebody with that scientific, questioning, skeptical, intelligent, reasoning type of attitude is often going to find themselves ostracized first, against their own will, by the religious realm. So, not even having to deliberately make a choice on their own, it's often made for them by the religious world. It tells them, you're sinning and you're questioning and you have no business to question, and you're nobody. Who are you? Just a human being with a brain. That's not good enough. You have to be divine. So they very often find themselves ostracized from the religious arena anyhow. But even so, if they're not, they still are going to find themselves, by their own natural inclinations, questioning the validity of what is passed off as religious knowledge. And so much religious knowledge is just so obviously flawed that it's really very difficult for a person with that kind of a mentality to continue to treat it seriously, or to believe in it like with a straight face, to be able to continue to act as if religion all makes sense and is all reasonable and is based on reality and real truth. It's hard to do that. It becomes hard to do that with a straight face if you have an intelligent mind. So it's not, but even so, there are people, and this is I think where things like the question of Buddhism, there's always this question of whether Buddhism is in fact a religion or a philosophy. And certainly Buddhism never has made any pretense of being a science. And yet, to the degree that, well, if we include philosophy as sort of an intellectual science, let's put it that way. So, when I mentioned science as opposed to religion, I think we can consider philosophy being on the side with science rather than the side with religion. Philosophy should be on the side with reason rather than the side with dogma and irrational beliefs. So there you go. A My Little Pony common English, plain English definition of the difference between science and religion.